All right, welcome back. We've talked about plant layout as this incredibly congested city, right, where space is everything. Well, today we're focusing on the buildings in that city, the equipment, and how it's designed, right down to the smallest detail, really dictates everything that happens around it.
There's a fundamental error I see a lot of junior designers make. They look at the equipment, the vessels, the columns, the exchangers, as these fixed, unchangeable objects that they just have to work around. They get a drawing and assume the nozzle locations are set in stone, and their job is just to connect the dots, no matter how complicated the path. That's a reactive mindset, and frankly, it leads to terrible design. The reality is, piping engineering should be driving the equipment layout. It's a proactive mindset. The orientation of a single nozzle. That one small change can be the difference between a simple direct pipe spool and some complex, expensive loop that ends up blocking a critical maintenance aisle. So, in this explainer, we're going to cover that foundational relationship between piping and equipment. We'll look at how nozzle orientation directly controls your layout, what happens when coordination goes wrong, and then most importantly, what your specific responsibility is in that design review process. Okay, let's start with the absolute bedrock of this whole philosophy. You have to understand that piping exists to serve the equipment, not the other way around. Look, piping doesn't exist for its own sake. Nobody builds a refinery just to admire the pipes. We build them to process fluids, and that processing happens inside the equipment. Columns separate things. Exchangers transfer heat. Reactors cause chemical conversions. The piping, well, it's just the transport mechanism. It's the veins and arteries that connect all these vital organs. And because of that, the layout of your piping is 100% dependent on the layout of the equipment. If the equipment is placed poorly, or if those connection points, the nozzles, are facing the wrong direction, your piping design is doomed from the start. You simply cannot design a good piping system around a bad equipment arrangement. Think about it. If a vessel is shoved up too close to a column, well, guess what? There's no room for your valves. If a heat exchanger is facing the wrong way, your tube bundle pulling space might be blocked by the main pipe rack. It's a chain reaction. So, this is the crucial point, the main takeaway here. Your first job as a designer isn't to start routing pipe. It's to stop, look at the equipment placement, and ask, does this even allow for a logical routing path to begin with?
And that brings us right to our next point, which is how nozzle orientation becomes the primary thing that controls your entire piping route. So let's be really clear about what we mean by nozzle orientation. We're talking about the specific radial angle and the elevation of that flange connection on the equipment. Every single degree of rotation matters, every millimeter of elevation, and it's your job to define it. Now, take a look at this. This slide shows the impact so clearly. Imagine a vertical vessel, maybe a knockout drum, sitting next to a pipe rack. If the inlet nozzle points right at the rack, like you see on the right, well, the pipe comes straight out, connects, and you're done. It's simple. Minimal steel, minimal friction loss. But now look at the left. What if that nozzle was pointed 180 degrees away from the rack? Now your pipe has to leave the rack, wrap halfway around the entire vessel using 3 extra elbows and 4 extra meters of pipe. You've just massively increased the pressure drop. You've added weight, you've created a congestion hazard for operators, and you've wasted a ton of money. All because a nozzle was facing the wrong way. Here's another perfect example, this time on a tall distillation column. When you have nozzles that connect on a maintenance platform, a radial nozzle, one that sticks straight out like a spoke on a wheel, it eats up a lot of that platform's walking space. The operator has to constantly walk around it. But if we just change that to a tangential nozzle, one that's angled to run parallel with the vessel shell, boom, we save that precious platform space and operating the valve becomes so much easier and safer.
So, this brings us to the consequences. When this kind of proactive coordination fails, the result is a set of really common layout failures, and they are obvious red flags of poor planning. First, you get the spaghetti effect. This happens when nozzles are just accepted as is, without any thought for the pipe rack. You end up with pipes weaving over and under each other in a desperate attempt to reach their connections. It looks chaotic because it is chaotic. Second is support conflict. Picture a horizontal vessel with an outlet on the bottom that's way too close to the vessel's saddle. You might not have enough room to even fit an elbow and a flange, which could force a hugely expensive change to the concrete foundation. And the third failure is a complete lack of flexibility. Piping needs room to expand with temperature. If a nozzle is jammed right up against a wall, you physically cannot route a proper expansion loop. You're then forced to use expensive and less reliable expansion joints.
So what is your job in all of this?
Let's be very clear about your role during this crucial equipment layout stage. Okay, so in a typical project, the mechanical department goes out, buys the equipment, and they get these general arrangement drawings, we call them GAs, from the vendor. Your job is to get your hands on those GAs and review them before the vendor starts cutting steel. This is what we call the squad check or the interdiscipline check. You have to look at every single proposed nozzle location and ask yourself, does this work for my piping? Can I support a valve here? Is there a platform in the way? And if the answer is no, you have to mark up that drawing. And you have to be specific. Get out the red pen, draw a line, and write crystal clear instructions like rotate nozzle N1 by 45 degrees east, or raise nozzle N2 by 300 millimeters to clear the platform steel. Don't be shy about requesting these changes. Of course, you have to be reasonable. You're working with the mechanical engineer, not against them, and there might be internal constraints on the vessel itself, but you have to ask.
And please remember this. This is maybe the most important line of the day. The vendor can move a nozzle on a piece of paper for free. Moving that exact same nozzle after it has been fabricated in steel costs thousands and thousands of dollars. Your early review is what prevents that costly rework down the line.
All right, let's just do a quick summary of the key principles we've covered today about this whole idea of equipment-driven layout.
First, and most importantly, piping serves the equipment. You can't fix a bad equipment layout with good piping. The equipment has to be right first. Second, nozzle orientation dictates everything. The efficiency of the line, the cost, the pressure drop. A nozzle facing the pipe rack saves elbows, saves money, saves energy. Third, all those common failures like the spaghetti effect, they're almost always the result of just blindly accepting default nozzle locations without checking. And finally, your responsibility, your duty, is to review and mark up those equipment GA drawings to request the changes that the piping layout needs to be successful.
So up to now, we've discussed static equipment, vessels, towers, exchangers, but what about the most dynamic and often the most troublesome piece of equipment in any plant? I'm talking about the pump. Pumps vibrate, they cavitate, they are the very heart of the process. So in our next explainer, we're going to dig deep into pump layout and see how that suction and discharge routing is absolutely critical to its performance.